Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Well, Phil Spencer, the Xbox boss himself, is upset with himself over Redfall's terrible launch. And probably, I would say, probably needs to be upset about more things than that, but that's one of the things that they could be upset about. But Microsoft's gaming CEO, Phil Spencer, he was contrite following the overwhelmingly negative response to Redfall. In an interview with Xbox podcast Xcast, he confessed to being disappointed with some quality issues and the critical reception of Arcane's vampire shooter. He said, "There's nothing more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community. Just to kind of watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself." So Redfall made headlines this week with its exceptionally poor review scores and went viral on social media posts displaying strange bugs and performance issues. And plus this game came from Arcane, which came out with Deathloop, Dishonored, Prey. And this was Xbox's first $70 Xbox Series X and S game. When asked about the negative reviews and questionable state of the game when it was released in, Spencer responded, and this is kind of long, but he says, "I think back to the announcement of the 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60. That was kind of a punch in the chin, rightfully, a couple weeks ago. And then seeing the game come out and the critical response was not what we wanted. It's disappointing. So kind of pick myself up. What can we learn? How can we get better? One thing I'll fight is sort of what went wrong. There's clearly quality and executive things that we can do, but one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations from our teams. I know a lot of people will say, hey, you've got teams. Teams know how to do one kind of game. Just force them to go do that one kind of game. They have a proven track record for it, and I'm just not... And man, the way he talks, and I'm just not a believe in that. Maybe that means I'll under deliver for some fans out there. But when the team like Rare wants to do Sea of Thieves, and when a team like Obsidian wants to do Grounded, and Tango wants to do Hi-Fi, when everybody probably thought they were going to be doing Evil Within 3, right? So essentially not making the teams do what they want to do, or allowing them to do what they want to do and not what they're best at. I want to give the teams creative platform to go and push their ability, push their aspirations, but also need to have a great selection of games that are continue to come that surprise and delight our fans. And we under-delivered on that. And I apologize. It's not what I expect, what I want, but it's ours to deliver. Microsoft, Microsoft was especially quiet in 2022. A lot of their stuff got pushed, such as Starfield. So really in 2022, nothing really worth a damn came out on Xbox, as a lot of their big titles got pushed to the next year in 2023. Being Starfield got delayed, I think twice, right? So we're expecting to hear more about that here in June. And the only silver lining Xbox has currently is Game Pass, right? Game Pass has been a silver lining for them, yet the subscriber numbers have kind of plateaued in a sense. So Microsoft also went on Phil Spencer went on to say that the final review scores and current Metacritic average of 62 was off from the company's internal mock review scores by double digits. They must have not played the same game. He didn't mention whether he personally demoed the game during development or what he thinks of it now that the game's out. Of course, Phil Spencer and Arcane remain committed to Redfall and are working on shipping updates to address bugs and add features like the previously promised 60 frames per second performance mode. He also said, "I also know these games are $70, and I'm not going to take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great." So, yeah. So basically, we can see why he's upset. Besides the stuff that I just went over, to put a little bug in your ear. me and Shane talked about this, and I even talked about this, and me and Shane talked about this here recently. If you listen to one of our older episodes, or here, I think last week or a couple episodes ago, me and Shane had talked about the state of Xbox in a sense, and I even talked about it when it came to Halo and the state of Xbox when I was on by myself. And when me and Shane talked about it, it was like the current state of Xbox right now is pretty dire as a gamer, right? On that podcast, me and Shay were talking about it, and I was talking about how I'm disappointed in Xbox. I love Xbox. I love the Xbox series, but I'm disappointed on what's there, right? Because there's nothing there. The games that they do come out with have been mediocre to poor, right? When you think about PlayStation, and I'm talking about first party titles, not third party, right? When you think about PlayStation versus Xbox, when PlayStation comes out with a first party title, God of War, Spider-Man, whatever, most of the time it's a great game. It's high on quality, high on gameplay. It's just like great out of the box. It may need some patches for a few bugs here and there and some jitterness, and that's okay, but it's not broken to all hell, right? Whereas Xbox with their games, and they haven't released a lot, but the recently released first party titles such as Redfall and even Minecraft Legacy or Dungeons or whatever the hell it's called, Legends, came out to mediocre to not great reviews. And it seems like everything that comes first party from now, granted, they do have stuff coming up in the future. We do have Starfield to look forward to, which hopefully Starfield comes out of the gate swinging. And then for those individuals who like the Forza Motorsport, that's probably going to come it's probably going to be shown off, I would imagine, here in June, and probably released sometime in November-ish or something to that effect. I would say that game's probably going to come out this year. We might see more about Fable, about Obsidian's Avowed, about Senua's Saga 2, but we don't have maybe even Perfect Dark, but we don't have a concrete release date on those games. We expect that they would come out in 2023, as that was kind of promised for these high-profile games from Microsoft and even from Phil Spencer himself. But the fact that the lack of discussion or talk about these particular games out there, right? Maybe they're waiting until June when they can show them off and then talk about it more. It's a possibility. But right now, I mean, we haven't even heard like rumors or rumbling of any of these games, right? And typically by now, especially as it's getting closer to June, the rumor mill and even the spoilers and things like that tend to leak out online, and we end up knowing more about these, but we haven't heard a single word about it. So either Microsoft's really good about keeping tight-lipped about it and not leaking as much as typically games leak, or they got nothing, right? Besides Starfield and Forza Motorsport, which doesn't put a good light on Microsoft as a gaming product, right? Which leads you to think as a gamer and as a consumer, when we talked about this, Shane, on the last one, at this point, at this state, besides Game Pass, let's take that out of the equation, as a console itself, is it worth having in any sense, right? Does it have the quality of games coming just from Microsoft that signify its purchase, right? And right now, I don't think so, right? Game Pass is its saving grace. I'll just mix that up. As of currently, and then Starfield and other games may be in the future, but right now, at the current state of Xbox, is pretty disappointing, right? As a gamer. And that saddens me and disappoints me more than anything. Like, I'm not upset or like angry or saying like, now I'm 100% Sony, or I'm a Sony pony at this point or something like that. I'm not saying that in the sense. I just want Microsoft and Xbox to do better, and right now they're not showing me that they can do that, right? Phil Spencer turned this ship around, but he's still heading for those jagged rocks and hasn't turned away from them, right? the boat's no longer sinking, but they're still heading for the harbor, and they ain't slowing down. So let's go around and see what everybody thinks of this, about Phil Spencer, about Redfall and everything like that. Just the quality of games that Xbox has been bringing out, and the lack of games, right? So since me and Shane talked about this last time, let me go ahead and go to Patrick and see what Patrick thinks of this.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have been a fly on the wall when Phil Spencer was play demoing this to see what he said. Like, did he sit in his chair and go, "This is good, guys"? Did he sit in his chair and go, "What is this garbage that you guys brought me?" Which, being Phil Spencer, I'm sure he got to see all this stuff, because what's the point in being Phil Spencer if you don't get to try stuff out before it comes out, right? Because that would be me. If I was in his position, I'd be like, "What do we got going on, guys?" You know, um, he's the head of the gaming part for Microsoft. How does he not? I'm sure he knew this game was going to be a disaster before it came out. I just have to believe that he knew it. He played it. I guarantee you, he played it, and he was like, "What?" And the question I would have for the developer is like, "Is this what you envisioned? If not, how much would it take to retool it and maybe make it what they're asking? Or maybe they need help from another studio." As you had mentioned there, he doesn't like to step on the creativity of teams, but at some point the creativity runs into a wall that they don't know how to overcome, whether it's a technological or a story, or how to do something that's outside of their wheelhouse. That's what having a parent company like Microsoft is good for. They can go, "We want to write a story that's as good as, something BioWare would have written," or, and we want some help with maybe borrowing some ideas on how to write this hodgepodge of a story that we have in a BioWare fashion or in whatever. To me, Redfall's a weird game. It doesn't do anything well, and I'm trying to find out what it really does do. I mean, it's a weird game, to be honest with you. So, but the state of Microsoft is let's put it this way: it's just Game Pass. If you take Game Pass out of the equation, I would probably still own the Xbox over the PlayStation, because I like the interface, I like the console, I like the stuff. But if we're talking specifically on exclusives, I would have never bought an Xbox, because I like the PS exclusives way more than I like the Xbox exclusives. But Xbox has never been about exclusives. They're not Sony. They're not going out. I mean, they may do this, but it's not blatant as obvious where they're not going out to studios and be like, "We'll pay you money to not put this on Xbox." They've got other ways of making money and doing things like that. So I don't see that happening with them as much. Does it happen? It may probably does. I'm not that much of an idiot. I see that things like that could happen, but Sony gets a lot of exclusives from studios that aren't their own. And the deals you get with that means that you had to have offered something up that overcomes the amount of money they're going to lose by not going to the other console. So I look at things when I pick a console. I don't look at exclusive titles. That is one of the defining factors when I'm looking at a console. But I also look at aesthetically, how does it operate? Like, I hate the PlayStation dashboard to no end. It's the most confusing. Half the stuff's at the top bar, and there's more stuff at the bar above the top bar. Then you've got the bottom bar, and the bottom bar has sub bars, and it's like, why split them? Just give me one bar, one menu, and I'll just cycle through the menus. It's that minimalistic, non-hierarchical mindset they've got with their dashboard, which to me just doesn't work. But, I've just liked Sony's dashboard for a while now. Microsoft's becomes unstable at times, but for the most part, it works for me. I don't use either console for anything outside of games. I don't stream movies on either console. I don't do any crap like that. So it's all about gaming for me. And I'm more of a fan of the controller on Xboxes than I am PlayStation. I like the offset sticks. I like the sturdiness of the Elite controller versus the PlayStation Elite controller. It's just stuff like that. So it still would be Xbox for me. But if you throw in Game Pass, and it's a clear winner in that aspect. But I own both. So I'm never going to argue that point, because I own both, and I will always own both as long as I can afford it. If I can only afford one, it probably would have been the Xbox, and I'd have been on the hunt for a used PlayStation when the prices came down or something. Kind of like what I did originally when I got back into PlayStation with when Horizon originally came out in the PS3. So, but I would love to have found out what it would have been like to be in that boardroom when Phil Spencer played the game that they were pushing out to the public. Did he just go, "This is a joke, right? You guys are messing with me, or is this April Fool's?" I would like to have been, because he's played it. He played it before everybody else got to. and how they're off by double. Did you say it was 65 or a 62 Metacritic score, Nick? Looking for the article, but regardless, Phil Spencer thinks that it should have been double digits at a minimum.
62.
Yeah, double digits at a minimum is 10. So they were saying it was going to be 72 or higher. That's definitely not an okay echelon game. It's a mid-range game that doesn't quite get off mid-range. Like I'm thinking 50s, 60s, you know, it's not a bad game. It doesn't play that well. It's got some stuff like that, but it's not a 70s game. It's not a better than average game. It's, in my opinion, it's average game for co-op. Like we'll make it fun, the three of us, because we make most co-op games fun. But if I'm playing this by myself, there's no way in hell I'm buying it. And thank goodness for Game Pass, so that I didn't have to spend $70 on this a game not worth $70. So, Shane, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The way you brought up, Nick, if I was to have to choose between, you know, the big three without Game Pass, that would be really tight, but I would still go with the Xbox. Just because I agree with Pat. I prefer the interface. I prefer the controller. I prefer many, many things about the ecosystem of Microsoft's Xbox than I do the PlayStation. I agree with everything Pat said there. Now, that being said, Game Pass is the only reason I don't really regret buying, you know, the Xbox, you know, because it's such a great service. But PlayStation, they have, I don't know if they have a quality control. And I brought this up, I believe on our chat too, Nick. Nintendo had a seal of quality. I mean, somebody played the damn thing. Now, this was back before the Wii, because that's when Nintendo said,
you mean before,
screw it, everything's shovelware.
Yeah, you mean though before Nintendo opened up the marketplace to everybody else, because Nintendo used to not allow you to put on their thing unless they approved it. Now that's not required anymore.
Yeah. Nintendo used to limit how many games you could put out on a console every year, a developer. So that's why some developers split off and made split their development teams and made two developers just to put out multiple games. But Nintendo had a seal of quality, and I don't know if Sony does, because I'd say 90% of Sony's first party studios are solid. I mean, just solid games overall. Now, there are occasional turds that are released, but you know, they're not every other game like Microsoft's been doing. I love Microsoft for what they've done with the ecosystem of Xbox, but their Redfall is not where you want to put your first $70 game. And Pat's right. Phil played it. He had to have played it because this is his baby. This, as you said, this is his ship. He wrote it. He straightened it out. He's no longer heading for the iceberg, but he is heading for the shore. He's going to have to turn that thing sooner or later. There's no way that he would have saw even if the game was at 70%, that's a garbage C. You know, you would think he would be like, no, come on, guys. We can get the frame rate up. We can do this, or we can do this to make it just a little better. This game plays free to play is the way this game plays. It plays free to play. It's a service game that's free to play that you pay $70 for, or Game Pass.
How do you ask that? So if you were Phil Spencer and I gave you this game to play it before we released it, how would you feel? How would you feel when we say this is our first $70 game?
Oh, that would be easy. I would put my controller down, look at the developer. What the fuck is wrong with you? That's
especially
exactly
when
what
it's
it would
coming from Arcane, right?
Arcane makes fantastic
not all of us
games.
are Arcane fans. Like I'm kind of hit or miss on their games, but their games are usually pretty good quality, right? I mean, Deathloop wasn't our favorite, but the writing and the graphics were phenomenal on that game, right? And it just the gameplay loop wasn't our favorite, but everything else in it was great as far as how the game was structured, how it looked, and things of that nature. Dishonored, I'm not a big fan of Dishonored, but I could tell you the game and the voice acting and things like that are great. Prey was great. Like, what the hell happened with Redfall?
Well,
it's like,
and how does Phil Spencer okay it to be their first $70 title? I mean, what part of him said, I'm okay with this, and it's not going to be that big of a deal?
That's I can't honestly believe this was Phil's full responsibility. I think it comes down to money. We've got to get this game out. We've got to get this game out. We've got this stockholder bullshit. Pardon my language. Because I can't imagine, because Phil, in my opinion, I know Phil's, he's a businessman. He's an office man. Fully understand that. But he also seems like he truly does have a passion for the industry. That being said, I think Phil was like, no, we better push it. And somebody above him was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's what I want to believe, at least. Because
as much as I want to believe
Phil
it,
Spencer.
I still can't believe that he didn't push back that this should not be our $70 debut game, guys.
See, I think he probably did, but somebody above him was like, no, it's going out the door, whether you like it or
right, but
not,
for
Philly boy.
$70, he could have been like, hey, this is going to be one of those $40 specials, $39.99 specials. If it would have came out at $39.99, I would have been like, okay, I understand a bit more where this game is coming
sense.
from. Yeah.
Yes, that would
not much development time, not much bake time. Just get something out there that's going to be fun and a filler.
In early access.
Yes, in early access,
free to play.
You guys shut your damn mouth. If console developers start coming out with early access, I'm going to freaking beat the crap out of somebody. They have
it on Xbox.
I loathe that games do this. Like, I love Grounded. I was so annoyed that Grounded came out in early access thing. I loathe early access games because you guys know my personality. I like to play a game from start to finish and get the entire experience. So I try not to buy any early access games because it's not a complete experience. So what ends up happening is I go through and I play the game until I'm done with it because I either can't progress any further because the story's not written or whatever. And then I never come back to it, or I come back to it and they've completely changed it, which is cool. But at the same time, I shouldn't have played the original then at that point. Like, I understand there's a market for people out like that, but early access is a joke because games come out in early access and live there for 2 to 3 years or never come out. Star Citizen, it's the worst thing ever to happen to the gaming industry, in my opinion, outside of like DLC and crap like that.
Yeah, it's laziness, it's greed. Star Citizen, it's a bunch of crap, is what that is. Phil, whether or not Phil really feels sad or upset by the situation that has happened with this game, that doesn't matter. What matters is they better frickin' learn from it, because they have some of the best studios under their wing now. They have more first-party studios than Sony does, but Sony still destroys them on first-party games. That should not be allowed when they have developers like that. Microsoft needs to implement a internal freaking quality control check. They need to actually talk to gamers too, because most gamers would have took a lot of things out of Halo Infinite. Gears of War 5 was fan-freaking-tastic. So you think they would have done something fantastic with Halo when they brought it back, but they didn't. They just rinse and repeated, and they made it open world. And I like Infinite. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but there's no love for it. That's my problem. I used to love Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach, ODST. Everybody was trying to give that one crap when it was announced, but me and Nick loved ODST.
Did we get one? I think we got one multiplayer, one co-op session in on Infinite, and everybody gave up on it already.
Oh, and we didn't even make it. We made it through the very first opening mission.
The prologue.
We got outside. Nick got the Scorpion cannon off the big busted ship, and that was it. That was it. Now we could probably jump back in and have fun with it, but there's no love for that game anymore. You know, it pisses me off because that's the series that made Xbox. Plain and simple, made Xbox. So. Yeah. So Phil, dry your goddamn tears and monitor your people.
Explain yourself.
I'm not saying.
Explain yourself is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be honest. Did you play this?
Just say, look, I walked by, I looked neat. I said, okay, send it out. Or say, yeah, I played it with one hand and I was drunk and, I was spanking my spider monkey while I was doing it. So I didn't quite get the experience, but I apologize.
I ate a tray of the special cookies and brownies before I played this.
Yes.
So I advised the same thing. Maybe that's why he didn't tell him not to release this.
Best game ever. Yeah. So yeah, it breaks my heart that the game's is where it's at, but we make it fun because we're idiots who love co-op together. So, that's it.
Yep. So, I mean, all it comes down to with Xbox is, especially Phil Spencer and especially Redfall, right? And the future of Xbox is the quality of games, not necessarily quantity you can work on, but your quality. Like you're working on your quantity, you're starting to get these releases out, and you're talking about more games that supposedly are going to come out this year. Hopefully, we'll learn more in June. But right now, the quality of these games that you're releasing are piss poor. And as they continue to be that way, if they continue to be that way, your player base is going to start to diminish. As great as Game Pass is, if the games, it's a great multi-platform system that you can play everything on and have Game Pass. But as far as like stuff from the studios you own, if it all comes out in this type of quality and level, then people are, some people are going to jump ship for sure. And a large amount of them, right? Not necessarily going to go out and sell their Xboxes, but the next Xbox, is it going to sell as much as this one, right? If the quality of games continue in this fashion, the next Xbox may not be as popular as this Xbox and so on and so forth, right?
I would say the gaming industry helped them if Starfield comes out this bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if Starfield comes out like this, if Starfield comes out this bad, then this will be the last Xbox made, or at least the last one I might buy.
It might be the last time we see Phil Spencer on TV as the head of Xbox Gaming.
Yep. Yep. Bring back Don Matrick.
Oh my God. You just want to kill Opto.
No, for that. That'll definitely kill the console off. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Shane made a good point. Like, and so did Patrick. If Starfield comes out and it's piss poor, right? And, we can expect Forza Motorsport's probably going to be good because it's the same. It's again,
more of the same.
Like Pat was saying. Yeah, it's a rinse and repeat game, right? For those people who like those simulated racers. But, if Starfield comes out and it's piss poor, if Fable comes out and it's horrible or never sees the light of day, Senua Saga 2 is probably going to be good. I expect that will come out, but will that come out this year? I don't know. Avowed by Obsidian, that hopefully we'll learn more about that game, but who knows when the hell that'll come out. So we have a lot of games that are announced or in the pipeline. Perfect Dark, the Initiative, who knows what's going on with that company. That company might be just completely gone by now because we haven't heard crap from them since the last time they showed off a clip
Gears
of that
Pop.
Game. Yeah, well, that was Coalition, but yeah.
Same crap.
But yeah, and what's Coalition doing, right? Rod Ferguson, he left them and went off to make Diablo 4. So, what's the Coalition doing now? I'm assuming they're working on a new Gears game, but we haven't heard crap about it. So, I mean, the quality of games have got to be a step up for Microsoft because their fans and the people that like Xbox are they're a little bit on shaky ground right now, right? As a fan and as a gamer, it puts me even on shaky ground with Xbox, not knowing, not necessarily what the future is, but what my future is with them, right? If their quality remains consistent where it's mediocre to poor, the next Xbox Next and PlayStation 7, I might not be looking at an Xbox Next, right? I might just be going, well, I'll get a PlayStation 6 and call it a day, right? Of course, if my friends have an Xbox Next, then I'll have to pick one up to play with them, but it's still the same.
Well, I'll migrate back to PC gaming exclusive anyway. They always get the games anyway. Even PC's getting
that's true.
PlayStation games. Now it's a few years later, but
I'm going to Apple Arcade. Screw you guys.
We'll disown
I'm
you.
going to Luna.
You will be disowned.
Yeah, or just go to PC, right? I mean, yeah, because they are getting the PlayStation games, right? So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, come
They're
on, Microsoft.
getting the PlayStation games. Have you seen the shit they're putting on there?
In horrible fashion, but yes, they are getting them. That's another topic for another time. But
oh my God, Last of Us. This is what Joel looked like.
You guys,
he was part the fungus already. He was already part fungus when that game came out.
The fungus got him already. Yeah,
Fungus among us.
Maybe that's their ploy. Like, we're going to put them on PC, but just make them damaged, right? So, PlayStation's PC games, yes, they are having a problem there, but that's not their bread and butter, right? They're just throwing them on there for some extra cash. So, but for Microsoft, come on, Phil, everybody there, you got to do something, because you're losing your fans, you're losing your crowd, right? And you got to turn the boat around with the Xbox One. But like I said, you're still heading for that harbor. The lighthouse is going, people are yelling, and you're still cruising right for the dock.
People aren't honking for you. That's the freaking lighthouse telling you you're about to wreck.
Yep. And like Pat said, if Starfield's a wreck, your boat's sunk. They sunk your battleship. You are down. That will not be good. So hopefully Starfield turns out to be an awesome game. Let's hope. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about with this?
Quality control. It's all I'm asking.
Yes, more quality. All right, everybody, let us know down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think of the state of Xbox? Have you tried Redfall? Let us know down in the comments below, or any of their first-party titles that come out recently. Minecraft Legends and Redfall. I think that's pretty much the list right now. But what do you think Starfield's going to be in the future, and these other games that they've talked about? Perfect Dark, Avowed, Senua's Saga 2. Do you expect those to come out this year? That's what we were promised, that they were going to be releasing this year, or expected to be. What do you think the state of that is, and the state of Xbox in general? But let us know down in the comments below what you think. Other than that, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and hit the bell notification to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. We'll see you next time.
See ya.